Hello and welcome, Psych students. Today we are going to round out our study of personality theories by taking a look at the trait theories of personality. So, as we know, thus far in this unit, we've covered lots of different personality theories, and all of the theories that belong to the same group have a similar concept or theory or idea that links them together. So with the psychoanalytic construct, they believe that it was your past or your unconscious that influences your personality. With the sociocognitive, it was that thought process that influenced your personality traits. With the humanistic, it was that environment in which you were growing up in that influences your personality. So with the trait theories, their common idea is that when it comes to your personality, you're born with it. So where those other theories spend a lot of time talking about personality development, these theories believe that's a waste of time because you were just born with your personality. So instead of trying to figure out where your personality comes from, our time is better spent with the study of personality to group and study how to categorize those personality theories that are present in all of us because we are just born with them. All right, so starting off with our first theory, we have Raymond Cattell, who said that all of our traits can be categorized as either a surface trait or a source trait. So a surface trait, he said, are observable behaviors and actions, the things that you can actually see people doing, hear them saying. And your source traits are the internal thoughts, feelings, wishes, desires behind those observable behaviors. So this theory really encompasses everything about psychology. If you remember back in Unit 1, we talked about the definition of psychology as the scientific study of human behavior, both thoughts and actions. So this idea of surface traits and source traits really encompasses that idea of internal thoughts, feelings, and external behaviors. So when we look at source traits, Cattell said that you could determine somebody's source traits by having them take an objective measurement. So you could have them take a series of multiple choice questions, and based off of how they answer those questions, you could then identify where they are in terms of their source traits, and he would plot people along 16 different continuums. So you can see those continuums listed there on binder page 14, which is where you should be following along and taking some notes here. So on page 14, that is where you can see those 16 different continuums. A continuum means that we have two extremes, one on either side. And so based off of how you would answer those questions on that measurement, you would be a dot somewhere in between those two extremes in terms of your source traits. And so what Cattell said essentially is that there is a cause and effect relationship between surface traits and source traits. So your source traits, those internal thoughts and feelings, cause your surface traits. So making it that simple that there is a cause and effect relationship between these two ideas makes it easy to study and easy to categorize because you can start one way or another. You can look at somebody's observable behavior and then based off of that, determine where you think they are in terms of their source traits, or you could get information about their thoughts or feelings and then determine or hypothesize what are some of the observable behaviors you would expect to see. So we're going to go ahead and practice this idea of using surface and source traits and this cause and effect relationship between them. So if you look at the bottom of page 14, I'm going to have you write the following three source traits that, again, I've just taken directly from that chart. So go ahead and write these on those three lines next to source traits underneath the chart there. So on the first line, go ahead and write apprehensive. On the second line, please write serious. Then on the third line, under source traits, Please write group dependent. So now that we have our source traits, I would like you to fill in the surface traits part. So if somebody had that source trait, had those internal thoughts or feelings, what are some of the behaviors we would expect to see them doing? What are some of the things we'd expect to hear them saying? So go ahead and pause the screencast here and complete that activity. Identify some surface traits for those source traits that you've been given. All right, welcome back. We're going to continue our look at trait theories by looking at Han Eysenck and his theory involving the idea of your social interactions and being labeled an introvert, extrovert, or ambivert. So according to Eysenck, based off of your social interactions, you could be labeled or categorized as being an introvert. Introverts are people that tend to be withdrawn, tend to think before they speak or act, and prefer to work alone. Introverts tend to feel drained being around a lot of people. That's exhausting to them. And sometimes introverts are mislabeled as being shy. And when it comes down to it, a lot of introverts aren't shy. They just need some time. They need time to think and absorb and process before they act. So again, does not mean shy. Or Eysenck said, based off of your interaction with others, you could be labeled or categorized as being an extrovert. Extroverts tend to be outgoing and social. Extroverts tend to just say whatever is on their mind. So maybe think or act before, so maybe act or talk before thinking. Extroverts tend to get energized by being around a lot of people. So those are essentially two extremes, right? So kind of like what we saw with Cattell and source traits, kind of we have those two extremes. So Eysenck also identified a middle ground between introvert and extrovert, which he called ambivert. So ambiverts vary between these two extremes. Maybe depending on the situation, might in one situation act more introverted, or in other situations act more extroverted, or you might get energized by being around other people but prefer to work alone. So kind of a combination of those two different categories of personality. Eysenck also, in addition to his extroversion scale, so we have extrovert on one side, ambivert on another, and extrovert, introvert, and then ambivert in the middle. He also included a scale that went vertically, up and down, that he identified as measuring your emotional stability. So just like with the extroversion scale, we see it ranging from, on one end, extrovert to introvert. With this emotional stability scale, it ranges as well. So on one end, we have stable, what you consider to be emotionally stable. So that'd be predictable and healthy reactions to situations. Then on the other end, you would be labeled as being unstable, so have reactions that are not socially acceptable. So based off of this idea, you would end up in one of these four quadrants. You would be labeled an emotionally stable introvert, an emotionally stable extrovert, an emotionally unstable introvert, or an emotionally unstable extrovert. If you end up somewhere kind of in the middle where they intersect, then again, you would be considered an ambivert, kind of in the middle of those extremes. And you can see there in your binder some examples of behaviors going along with that idea of the introvert and extrovert scale, as well as the emotionally stable and unstable scale. And there's another visual to go along with it. All right, moving on to our last theory of the unit. Dun, dun, dun. The Big Five. So the Big Five is a newer theory that has come out in the last 10-ish years or so. And again, we want new theories. We need new theories as our understanding of personality and human behavior as a whole continues to develop. We welcome new ideas and theories. So this is, again, a newer theory. And what the Big Five basically hypothesize is that when it comes to our personality traits, there are 5 broad categories. And these categories, because they are so broad, encompass all the different personality traits that humans develop. And it encompasses this idea that our personality traits are universal and that they have biological origins. So again, because they have biological origins, we're born with them, they're universal. That all of these personality traits are just a part of human behavior as a whole. So we use the acronym OCEAN to remember the Big Five personality traits. So O stands for openness, and you will see on binder page 15, just like we've seen with these other trait theories of personality, that there's a spectrum at play. So again, a range of behaviors. So OCEAN, the O stands for openness. So this includes characteristics like imagination and insight. C stands for conscientiousness. This involves the characteristics of thoughtfulness, having good control of your impulses, and having behaviors that are goal-oriented. E stands for extroversion. So how excitable are you? How social are you? How talkative are you? And how kind of emotional you are when it comes to how you express yourself. So again, that's borrowing from that idea that was first proposed by Eysenck of that extroversion scale. A stands for agreeableness. So how likely are you to be cooperative and trusting of others, being good-natured? And then N stands for neuroticism. So with neuroticism, we look at kind of that emotional stability aspect that was again first proposed by Eysenck. So how likely are you to express yourself in a way that is or is not emotionally stable? All right, so that is it as far as our notes go. So feel free to go back and rewatch portions if you want to or need to. The next step in your process for today is to log into Schoology and complete personality assignment number 2. So this is a must-do assignment. Go ahead and just get it done right now during class. And this is going to be something where if you do not complete it, it will go into the gradebook as no credit, and you'll be asked to come in during RTI time until it is completed. So you should, the assignment deals with the trait theories, which we just went through, as well as the humanistic theories, which we went over yesterday. So you will definitely want to reference your packet notes on pages 13, 14, and 15. That will be helpful when you're completing the assignment. All right, take care. I will see you all on the flip side.